everyone, welcome back to the cottage. I'm Cheyenne with the Rosevine Cottage Girls, and we're so excited to be doing something extra special today. Today's video is very special, and we're really honored to be a part of the Inquisitive Farm Wife's freeze-dry February collaboration. We were really excited for this. So today we are going to be freeze-drying ground beef, but before we get into that, I wanted to tell you a little bit more about this collaboration. Through the entire month of February, the Inquisitive Farm Wife is bringing some really amazing creators together to teach you about how to freeze-dry, for everything from tips on storage to how they like to use the freeze-dried food to even freeze-drying itself. So all things freeze-drying all through the month of February. And there's all kinds of really fun prizes and great information that's going to be coming in. At the end of it, they're even giving away a medium-sized freeze dryer, which is the same size that we have. So let's dive into our video. Alright, so we have some ground beef here. And we are going to throw it into, I like cooking our cast iron pans, but you can really use whatever pan you want. I just think it adds more flavor. So we're going to cook this in batches, and we're just going to cook it like we normally would, and then we will strain off all the fat. That should be good for this round. The dogs all think they're getting meatballs. So we're going to let our pan heat up, and we're going to brown this ground beef and make sure it's all broken apart so it's little pieces and ready to use. Alright, so I am going to go ahead and season this with salt. I'm using a Himalayan pink salt. We like the minerals and goodness that's found in this particular salt, so we like to use this a lot. And then I'm going to be using some black pepper. I'm cheating and I'm using pre-ground, but that's okay. And you can just season this how you like it. Say, like, you're too big to get under the island, dear. I know, it's so rude. Anyway, we are just going to cook this as we normally would. Oops. Keep it in your pan, preferably. This is a 70-30 meat that we picked up at one of our local grocery stores, but you really can use whatever you want. This is especially great if you raise your own beef and want to free up some space in your freezer. Freeze drying is a great option for that. It doesn't matter what kind of grade meat you use or how much fat is in it, because we are going to be straining and rinsing this off anyway. So we like to use this meat from everything from our chili to our tacos. You can rehydrate it with everything from hot water to broth, really anything that you wanted to. It comes out so absolutely delicious. We actually will eat it just dehydrated or freeze-dried straight from the package as a little snack while we're cooking. Don't tell. It really is so tasty, and it really preserves the flavor and the nutritional value of the meat. We've tried canning and other things to do meat before, but we never really loved the texture it came off with. Some of it was good. But freeze-drying by far is our favorite way to preserve meat. And it's a great way to clean out your freezer. We are almost cooked through, and then we can work on straining this. This is really handy if you are going camping or whatnot and you want to take this stuff to make a dish. You don't have to lug around a big ice chest and worry about keeping your meat cold. It's all packaged up and ready to go. And if you use something like a Mylar bag, it's much lighter than like a glass jar or something. And you don't have to worry about it getting wet and spoiling or whatnot, which is always good. This is just about done. So we're going to just pour it through a colander with a bowl underneath, and we're going to reserve all of this fat that we rendered out of the meat for other things. And then we will rinse it in the sink just to make sure we got all of the fat canned out of it. So our meat is all cooked, and we are going to pour it through a colander. Now you can either reserve the fat for cooking later, which is what we usually do, or you can save it for your animals, which is always a great treat. Chickens love it, and we will occasionally add it to our dog food. Just a little bit, not all of it all at the same time. But it makes them very happy. And for the chickens, we'll mix in like oats or something. Oh, it's nice and hot, and then let it cool and harden. And it's a great treat on cold days. Alright, I'm just going to wiggle this around until most of the fat comes out, because I don't want to pour that down our sink. That looks like it's most of it. So now I'm going to take it over to our sink and rinse it, and I'll be right back. We are back. Our meat is washed. We're going to set our fat that we reserved over here. And because you washed a lot of the seasoning that you put on it originally has come out of the meat, so we're just going to add a little bit more. And technically you could do this specially seasoned for whatever you're planning on using it for, like pasta or taco meat. I'm just going to do a simple salt and pepper. Perfect. Alright, so this is ready to go into the freezer for a pre-freeze. I've got my trays down here. Alright, we're just going to spoon it over onto the tray. And pre-freezing really helps to cut down the process time when you get it into your freeze dryer. You can fill your tray up to almost the lid. And the silicone mats down at the bottom really make it easier to get the stuff off the trays when you're done. It's not super necessary for things like meat, but if you're doing something that's very liquidy like eggs, that really does make a huge difference. So using the silicone mat also will really help if you have extra fat in your meat still. All the fat will drain under that mat, and you will come out with a much drier, cleaner product that won't have clumps of fat on there. So that is a great tip when you're doing meat. As always, I'll have all the stuff we use and some more other resources for freeze drying down in the description below. I'm going to go ahead and go fill up the rest of our trays, and then we'll be back. All of our meat is on trays now, and we're going to go ahead and throw them in our freezer. All of our trays are loaded and ready to go in the freeze dryer, pre-frozen. You can do it for a couple hours, which is what we typically do, or for shorter results, go ahead and throw them in and leave them in there overnight. That will make your product much more frozen, and that way your freeze dryer doesn't have to work as hard to get the process started, and it will cut down your end processing time quite a bit. So let's go throw it in. Alright, so this is our medium-sized Harvest Right freeze dryer, and we are pre-started it for 15 minutes. We're just going to slide our trays in. You want to make sure that your ring is nice and clean and well put on there, no gaps. I'll go ahead and slide the rest of these in before we start, but you're just going to lock this down. Close your valve, make sure it's nice and secure. You don't want it just a little bit open. You're going to hit continue, and that's going to start your process, and then it will run through the whole thing. You won't have to do anything, and once it's done, it'll start beeping, and then you can pull these out. You'll just open the valve, unlock this, and then you are ready to pull your product. Alright, so we have our ground beef already packaged. We did this batch in Mylar bags, but you could easily use jars and just vacuum seal it. And one of the great prizes you can win is actually lids for your jars. We use both Mylar and jars around here. Just depends on what we have handy at the time and how fast we think we're going to be eating through something. Mylar is great for longer term storage. Jars are great if you're going to just be eating it or you are concerned about a rodent problem. And if you use Mylar, make sure you are using oxygen absorbers. Alright, so we are going to go ahead and rehydrate some of this. So I've got some hot water in our kettle and we're just going to pour it in. It's probably a little bit much, but it'll be alright. And then we are going to just add a small lid. I'm using a saucer, nothing fancy. We've let this sit for 3 minutes and it absolutely looks like a fresh thing of ground beef. Let's see what it tastes like. You could not tell that that is not just straight fresh from your pan cooked ground beef. It's delicious. So let's try it in a dish. Alright, so I've got a can of homemade Rotel that we canned a couple years ago. And some rehydrated ground beef. You could totally rehydrate your ground beef in your salsa or your Rotel or whatever you're making. I just chose to do it separately really quick. Alright, so to that next I'm going to add a stick of cream cheese. And we're just going to gently chop this down into pieces and let it melt into our dip. By the way, if I didn't mention this already, I'm making Rotel dip. Okay, so our dish is finished. It tastes absolutely delicious. And we are ready to enjoy it. Thank you so much for joining us on another freeze-drying adventure. Make sure you take a moment and stop by the other channels on this collaboration. They have tons of great information. Jump in on some giveaways. And if you like this video, take a minute to like it, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you know when our next video goes up. We'll see you next time at the cottage.
Sailor Rose, I'm pretty sure you don't belong down there. You're going to break my island. Lolly?
Lollipop, what are you doing?